Turning to an issue for Donald Trump that simply won't go away. Trump aides had hoped to quiet this by Labor Day, get it done in the summer. That's not happening. Jeffrey Epstein's accusers demanding accountability. They've got bipartisan backing. Republicans have also joined, some of them, the chorus of those saying it's time to release those Epstein files, which the Trump administration has clearly been not only hiding, but sometimes misleadingly so by claiming they're releasing something, then it's nothing. The Republican MTG, who says she will support the bill to override House Republican leadership that are defending Trump and the secrecy to try to get the documents, says she also will try to play a role to reveal the names.
It's a scary thing to name names, but I will tell you, I'm not afraid to name names. And so if they want to give me a list, I will walk in that Capitol on the House floor and I'll say every damn name that abused these women.
That was at that press conference. Today, the issue goes forward. Congressman Massey discussing who could be on this list.
I don't think Donald Trump's name is on the list, no. I think there are probably some people in his administration who would be embarrassed, like Acosta. I think there are some very rich donors to the Republican Party and some, ironically, to the Democratic Party as well, who are going to be on that list.
The entire issue, as we've covered, has moved farther and farther away from the facts, what happened, what the DOJ did or failed to do, and why so many of the women, so many of the accusers have been completely mistreated through this process. Often, not exclusively, but often by leadership of the Trump administration. And so it was important that we witnessed this time for them to speak in their own voice about what they've been through.
After meeting Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, it felt like someone shut off the lights to my soul.
I have never been more scared in my life than I was that first time that he hurt me. I remember crying the entire way home, thinking about how I couldn't ever tell anyone about what actually happened in that house.
He gave me an ultimatum. Either you come here and massage me when I call you, or you bring me friends of yours to massage.
The days of sweeping this under the rug are over. We, the survivors, say no more.
These are real people dealing with real crimes that too often have been weaponized for political reasons.
I would say I actually think the thing that was weaponized was the Jeffrey Epstein controversy. And actually, the women were the last thing that this administration and those who seek to cover up more information were considering. I think what we saw yesterday was a recentering of the victims at the heart of the story. And that is essential, I think, in pushing this past partisan politics. Side note, a few of the women got up at the podium yesterday and said, we're Republicans. They didn't say who they voted for, but they really want to make clear to the American public, this isn't about taking down an administration we don't agree with. This is about our truth. This is about being abused. This is about surviving abuse, and this is about getting to the truth. And I think the reality of them coming forward like this is that it now pits those who want transparency on the side of the victims and those who don't. It pits them against the victims. And that is a very challenging fight to wage, to be out there. It's not that they're fighting. And the president said yesterday in the Oval Office, this is a Democrat hoax. The women out there aren't part of a Democrat hoax. These are women who are survivors. And I think the country looks at these, hears these stories, looks at these women and says, this isn't about Democrats trying to gain a leg up on Trump. This is about women who have gone through something horrible, trying to get at the essence of that hurt and trying to find some kind of closure here. And if you're standing in their way, then you're against these women and these survivors.
And the obsession or conspiracy theory, which it's hard for people to appreciate if you don't spend a lot of time on the MAGA digital spaces and podcasts. This is a huge, long-running thing.
Yeah.
What we're now witnessing is months now of the difference between treating it as content and the more messy, factually related process of treating it as reality. That hasn't gone as well for the Trump administration.
Well, I mean, it does beg the question, why did Trump gin up all of this heat around Jeffrey Epstein beginning in 2015 if he knew the information in the files was not politically expedient at best for him, right? But the reality is that the reason this theory and the Jeffrey Epstein controversy and saga and crimes are so resonant with the MAGA base is because it gets to the essential proposition of MAGAism, which is there is a cabal of elites that are out there to screw you. And they are doing everything in their power to keep you down, to keep you in the dark, and to keep the real truth in the shadows, right? Epstein is a placeholder for that feeling, for that thesis. And that's why it's also not going away. I mean, you have some MAGA members of Congress who are trying to brush this under the rug. You have some people at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence who are trying to brush this under the rug. You have the House leadership and the Speaker of the House trying to further the president's political ends by brushing this under the rug. But the reality is MAGAverse writ large, from Joe Rogan on, is still very much interested in what's happening here. It's not going away. And you have the added fuel on the fire of the victims coming forward, taking it out of the Washington firefight, mud pit, and saying, we want the truth. And by the way, if we can't get the truth, we're going to release the name of the client list on our own.
On our own. Yeah, exactly.
That is high stakes, Ari.
Yeah. We love when you come by.
I love coming by.
Straight facts.
I mean, I'll just, take a couple lighters, few pens, some cough drops.
We'll find you a lighter.
Borrow the jacket. I don't know.
We got cough
Thanks
drops
so
right
much.
here.
Thanks. I'm done with TV for the night, but it did just for my long nightlife.
We talk a lot on this show about the future of American democracy and the fight against authoritarianism. So far in 2025, Republicans in Congress have declined to participate in that fight. The president has trampled their authority again and again. Today, in a new op-ed published on MSNBC.com, our own Michael Steele wrote, the next few months will determine whether lawmakers will defend their constitutional powers or surrender them to an increasingly imperial president, perhaps for good.
Here, Michael Steele. Wait, let me read more from it because we don't want you quoting yourself. Congress needs to reclaim its powers or lose them for good. That's the title, folks. Look it up. After Trump's first term, the House passed the Protecting Our Democracy Act, designed to accelerate subpoena enforcement, rein in emergency powers, and codify long overdue guardrails. The Senate let it die. A new version sits idle today. Without reform, Congress remains structurally weak and easily bypassed. It has become irrelevant. Congress is a co-equal branch of government. You called them out today.
Yeah. No, they have made themselves irrelevant because for some reason they think that what they're doing is actually a form of power, and it's not. I mean, but there's a starting place for this. When you go back and 9/11. The world changed dramatically for all of us, but it changed specifically in a very dramatic way for Congress because that was the moment the strength of the presidency was locked in. Nation in crisis, time of being attacked. This on the heels of the 2000 election where politically we were fractured. And so all of these things sort of found themselves resting in the executive branch. And what has stunned me is how willingly the congressional branch has been to just let it happen. So what I'm saying to them is, wake up. You still have time because there are measures that are in place that you can act on to reclaim, not to become an imperial Congress, but just to recalibrate the balance between the branches.
It was perhaps my favorite part of your op-ed, which is you actually lay out what some of those things could look like. Walk us through them.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are legislative things that they can do in terms of, reclaiming their authority over tariffs, reclaiming their authority in the foreign policy space. What they gave the president was the ability to say, oh, this is a conflict. I want to send in some troops. I'll talk about paying you later. Right. Reclaim that power. Make the president come before the chamber and lay out the reason why we need to engage. What the president of the United States just blew up a Venezuelan boat, and nobody in the government seems to understand why.
Happened. They're looking for justification. They actually found some today that Secretary Rubio put out. Can I just throw this in the middle of the table, as Michael Steele would say? Perhaps Congress this is not a Congress, from my perspective, that is acting like Donald Trump is a one-term, is not going to be president in 3.5 years.
As well. Yeah.
I just have to believe that they would be asserting themselves more, the Republicans, if, in fact, they really did believe Donald Trump was going away. So I have to wonder, what do they know that we don't know?
What they know is that they have a congressional delegation majority that will, if it comes to that type of conflict where the election, for example, is thrown into the House, they know they have the power to give Donald Trump the White House again.
He shouldn't even have it, but here we go.
It is a truly excellent piece. Make sure you read it on the site.
Trump lashing out about Epstein, calling the investigation a hoax. Actually, around the exact same time that Jeffrey Epstein survivors were publicly telling their stories on Capitol Hill, pleading for transparency. Here's President Trump today.
From what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given, but it's really a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president.
Well, maybe irrelevant to the success, as he says, but of course relevant to the 1,000 or more victims, relevant to possibly the many men who were in there who were raping children. Well, not a hoax. Jeffrey Epstein is accused of targeting, assaulting, and raping underage girls. That's not a hoax. That's something that needs to be investigated, and everyone should be pounding the table on this. This one isn't hard and it's not complicated. And it's why Republican Congressman Thomas Massie is leading the revolt on this against Trump. As we speak, rallying Republicans to break with Trump and support Massie's movement to force a vote that would allow for releasing every single Epstein document that exists.
I care most about the policy here, not the politics of it. But politically, it's really bad for Republicans. They should just have this vote and put it behind them. 80% of Republicans, it's not just independents and Democrats who want these files released. 80% of Republicans support releasing these files. So they're at odds with our base right now, and particularly the MAGA base.
Well, Massey is being practical, but he's also right there that this shouldn't be political. There's a right and a wrong. And exposing people who assault and rape children is the right side of the issue. If Massey can get 2 more Republicans to join him, he can force the vote on his bill. It is a vote that Trump right now is scrambling to kill. The White House today actually calling Massey's measure, quote, a very hostile act to this administration. Unclear why they would want to make keeping secrets on Epstein being for their administration, but there you have it. And while Trump sees the Epstein survivors, today had a message for the president who continues to call what happened to them a hoax.
Mr. President Donald J. Trump, I am a registered Republican, not that that matters because this is not political. However, I cordially invite you to the Capitol to meet me in person so you can understand this is not a hoax. We are real human beings. This is real trauma.
We are tired of looking at the news and seeing Jeffrey Epstein's name and saying that this is a hoax. We are tired of it.
The truth is, Epstein had a free pass. He bragged about his powerful friends, including our current president, Donald Trump. It was his biggest brag, actually.
Trump's name was invoked multiple times during those emotional moments today at the Capitol. Epstein's victims recounting the horrors also that they endured. The brother of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who was one of the most vocal Epstein accusers, who really opened the door for so many before taking her life, joined the women in calling for Congress to stop slow-walking the release of the Epstein files.
I plead to you, whether you're a dad, a mom, a brother, or a sister, look your young ones in the face. Look them in the eye and tell them you didn't stand against the very people who raped, molested, and preyed upon children and young women. If you vote no, your stance will be clear.
In a moment, we're going to be speaking to Virginia Giuffre's family, including her brother Sky, who you just heard there. It is important, of course, to note that Trump has not been accused of wrongdoing. Manu Raju is out front live on Capitol Hill to begin our coverage. So, Manu, you know, there's very little that is bipartisan on Capitol Hill. Congressman Massey really has gone out on a limb, really, frankly, putting his entire career on the line to be on the side of transparency when it comes for the Epstein files. What is the latest, as you understand it, on the bipartisan push to release the files and whether it will be successful?
Well, it's still in the same place that it was before this news conference when Massey had 4 Republicans, including himself, signing on to this effort to force a vote on the full House to compel the release of these documents, meaning he still needs 2 Republicans. That was the case this morning. That is the case right now. And there are roughly a dozen or so Republicans who actually do support his bill, but are not supporting yet this parliamentary maneuver to circumvent the Republican leadership and put this bill on the floor. That is a rarely successful maneuver that is often employed or attempted by the rank and file. But this time, Massey is so close, but can he get there? One big reason why they're having a hard time is this pressure campaign from the White House. Republican leaders urging Republicans not to sign on to this Massey effort. I caught up with one of the Republicans who did sign on to this effort. That is Marjorie Taylor Greene, a MAGA Republican herself, someone who was at that news conference today. And I asked her about the contention from a White House official that signing on to this effort is a, quote, hostile act.
This isn't a hostile act towards the administration. The hostile act has been against these women for so many years now. The hostile act is covering up for Jeffrey Epstein and everyone else that's been involved in this. And that's the real hostile act. I look forward to talking with President Trump about these women that I've met. I also encouraged him already this morning that he should have these women in the Oval Office. They deserve to be there.
But still, the Speaker of the House is very clear that he does not want to move forward on this effort. In fact, after this news conference, he told reporters, I quote, I think they have been misled. He also said that their House is moving forward on the investigative front. He pointed to the House Oversight Committee's ongoing investigation, contended that that would be more successful than Thomas Massey's bill, which he said has some flaws to it. So you can see there the challenges that Massey still has to move ahead on this effort.